Hot takes are everywhere, but they're often uninformed, and major news is biased. We've had enough of hot takes. We want informed takes. Join Kevin Briggins and Devin Smith as they have rational conversations about domestic politics, geopolitics, and military affairs. Things will get interesting as they bring in expert guests, even from across the aisle. Grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and hop into the chat. It's time for Informed Takes.
Yo, it is good to be back. Hey everyone, welcome to Informed Takes. I am Kevin Briggins. He is Devin Smith, and we are so glad to be back. Man, it's been a minute.
It's been a minute, man. I mean, we had a couple of weeks where either of us was out of town, and then I was sick. Well, actually, we were both sick.
Both sick.
And then I ran the show solo last week. Hat tip to Jay Witt for coming on, but it's good to see your face again, man.
Hey, same here, man. It's good to be back. Man, yeah, it just seems like it was just a turn of events where we just had to keep kind of postponing, sickness and out of town and stuff. But I'm glad we're back because we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, yeah. Man, don't start this.
What? Oh man, yeah, you're skipping a little bit. It's all good,
I know.
Man.
Oh, I know.
We're gonna hang in there.
Yeah. Hey, if all goes wrong, I'm gonna switch to the phone and we're gonna do 5G because for some reason my AT&T fiber doesn't like to work. I don't know what it is.
AT&T, come on, get with the program, AT&T. Get down there to Alabama and fix my man's stuff.
I know, man. We got running water and paved roads now. I don't know why the internet's just so slow.
It's just the Lord. It's the Lord telling you that you need to move to ATL. That's all it is. See how I did that? You see what I did there?
Yeah. Trust me, I've thought about it. I thought about it. And then I look at my wife, and she goes, "No."
We gonna get her up here, man. We gonna get her up here. So, man, there's been so much happening in the world, and I'm glad that we have our resident intel expert here to help us navigate it. To make a Chappelle reference, unlike Ja Rule, you actually know what you're talking about. So I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, man. I was like, oh man, we got a new Middle Eastern. Oh yeah, it's time to teach.
Yeah, man.
You know?
Yeah, no, we ready. We ready, man. I do have a question for you though. I do have a question for you. Even though it's Sunday, what you drinking?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. I'm glad you asked that question because I hope Future jumps in the chat because I got my Four Toes lemonade is back today.
Oh my goodness, man. He got the Four Toe lemonade. Oh my goodness. Straight out of Alabama. Oh, he's back. Yeah. All right, we got him. He's here.
Yeah, I'm back.
You skipped out. You skipped out there for a second.
I know, because it's even freezing on my end. So,
okay, it's all
if
good.
we get going and we're still doing this, then I'm gonna switch to the phone.
No, I'm gonna keep rolling with it. It's showbiz, baby. The show must go on. We'll be smooth with it. I have so my birthday was last Sunday, and a good friend of mine gave me some cask strength Tennessee that comes out of some whiskey that comes out of Tennessee called Blue Note. And they actually finished this bourbon in something like, I mean, it's crazy. It's like they finish it in like 9 different barrels that had different kinds of spirits in it, different kind of liquors, and it's delicious. It's amazing. I don't know how much it costs, but it tastes expensive.
I got to get friends like you, man. Isn't like everything you pull out, like a friend of mine gave me this.
Hey, when you broke and you like bourbon, you know, I just feel like the Lord has given me some grace. You know, I couldn't afford to like go buy bourbon the way I used to. I used to get in trouble. I used to go in the liquor store and just buy bourbon, and my wife would be like, "You already got enough bourbon. Why are you buying more bourbon?" I'm like, "Because bourbon." But these guys, man, they keep me going. I ran out.
Yeah.
I ran out of the scotch that I was drinking on the last time that we were on. I ran out, and then my man got me a new bottle, and I'm just praise God, man. The Lord provides. I'm making all the Baptists mad right now. All the Baptists mad. I'm sorry, y'all.
You really are. Oh. But man, we've missed a lot of time and a lot of things that went on. So let's jump into this to where we can just start breaking down what's going on. This crazy world we live in.
Yes. Where we starting, man? Where we starting? We want to start with Yemen.
Yeah, let's start with Yemen. Now, we were going to start with Ukraine, Russia, man, but then this Yemen thing popped off, and it was like,
it's true,
that's a
man.
bigger story right now.
That is right. Let's jump into that. So lots happening in Yemen, and I think, do we have a video on Yemen? I think I've got that queued up. So I can show. Let's show the video first. Let's show the video. This is it's crazy. A lot of people mad, but let's take a look at it.
U.S. air and naval assets launch a large-scale strike against Iranian-backed Houthi militants on Saturday. The Houthi targets in Yemen include missiles, radars, and drone and air defense systems. The attack is the most significant military action of President Trump's second term. Trump saying the Houthis have waged an unrelenting campaign on piracy, violence, and terrorism against American and other ships, aircraft, and drones. We will use overwhelming lethal force until we have achieved our objective. Trump also had a stark message for Iran, saying that its support for the Houthis must end immediately.
Clearly, the intended audience here was Iran. The Trump administration has made it clear that they want the Iranians to negotiate an end to their nuclear program.
A spokesperson for Yemen's Ministry of Health said that at least 9 people were killed in the strikes and another 9 injured. Since the Hamas assault on Israel in October 2023, the Houthis have launched more than 100 attacks on vessels in the Red Sea. The Biden administration also conducted multiple strikes against the Houthis as they disrupted international shipping lanes in the Red Sea with attacks. Johnny Fernandez, ABC News, New York.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to ABC7 Chicago.
So this is big deal. Oh man, we got producer Liam in the chat. Liam in the chat.
Oh man.
He's watching from the house. We couldn't get him on a school night. His parents did not approve on producer Liam working on Informed Takes on a school night. So this is why we're doing it from home. But producer Liam's in the chat. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah, we do. We do. But yeah, that video was a good breakdown of kind of just a general situation of what's going on. So if you haven't been following, President Trump ordered a large-scale strike on the Houthis in Yemen. We're gonna break down, okay, who are the Houthis and why are we doing this? But at the end of the day, it really comes down to big picture is really a hit against Iran. But the more immediate thing is that the Houthis really disrupt maritime traffic in the Red Sea. And so we're going to okay, what's going on? So the Houthis, they're Shia Islamist group. So there are 2 main kinds of Islam, Sunni and Shia. The Shias make up about 10% of all Muslims, but they make up the majority in countries like Iraq, Iran, and they hold power in places like Yemen and until recently in Syria. But that's all changed in Syria now. So the Houthis are the Shias who took power in Yemen, and there's technically still a war going on in Yemen between these various forces that we don't have time to get into. Just know that it is your typical poor governance over decades, tribalism, and self-interest, right? And religious wars, typical Middle Eastern stuff. But Yemen is a country that is just messed up. But the Houthis, also known as Ansar Allah, if you look at the screen, the first one to the left that's their flag and that's their motto, and it says, "It's the greatest. Death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews, victory to Islam." You want to know what the Houthis are about? That pretty much sums it up. And so they are a group who is very anti-American, anti-Israel, and they've actually been active in the attacks against Israel. So when Iran launched attacks against Israel, the Houthis did as well. They've done several drone attacks, but that's just kind of the situation and who they are. Why we decided to launch a large-scale attack on them is kind of twofold. The first one about the maritime traffic. If you look at the map on the screen, you can see that where Yemen, the one with the circles on it, so the inset to the larger map, Yemen is right there on the bottom circle. That is the entrance to the Red Sea, and Yemen is right there on the coast. So it gets very narrow right there. And that is where the Houthis have been targeting ships who've been coming through, whether it's military or commercial. They are targeting ships that come through there. And so the reason that's so important is because if you look at the top circle on the map, that is the Suez Canal that runs through Egypt. So that is the shortcut from the Indian Ocean up through into the Mediterranean, right? You cut through there because the reason I put the larger map on there is you can see if you can't go through the Suez Canal, you have to go all the way around. That is why the Suez Canal and the Red Sea is so important for shipping. That is a big difference in time and money. And so they know that by disrupting the maritime traffic through, they can disrupt basically the world economy to a degree. That just really important. And so the economic reason. Yeah. Devin, what you got?
Yeah, so I just want to just make sure that people heard that right, because your audio dipped for a second there. Just on the word Africa, it's very important that people understand that route is super important, because you literally have to take a ship all the way around Africa if that route is closed off. And so this is a really, really big deal. Just to kind of tee you up a little bit, Kev, I've seen a lot of people. I probably spent too much time this morning scrolling on X, looking at people having, people having one take or another. You saw a little bit of comments popping off today in the Facebook post promoting the show, that you got a lot of folks who would consider themselves probably strongly America first, asking, why are we doing this? I thought that we were supposed to be promoting peace. I thought that we were supposed to not be engaging in wars. Help people understand why Trump would take this action.
Yeah, because the world does not adhere to our demands of not wanting to get into conflicts. Things still happen in the world. The rest of the world, they don't have to cooperate. I mean, peace through strength means at some point you have to show strength, right? It can't just be all rhetoric. And so when you have a group that is constantly firing, I think the number is since November of 2023, they have done 175 attacks on U.S. warships and 145 attacks on U.S. commercial vessels passing through there, right?
Wow.
So we're talking about 300 attacks over the last year plus. And the Biden administration also did some strikes here and there, but it wasn't anything significant. It was almost like it was very reactionary. Like, okay, they did something, we're going to hit this thing. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to go in and we're going to take out your leadership and your capabilities, which is what's happening now. And so the reason this is happening is because we've been attacked, and so that's what I call it the woke right isolationist crowd needs to understand, is that the issue is we don't need to get deep conflicts. Right? We don't need to be drawn into conflicts that have nothing to do with us. This has something to directly do with us, because this one thing people don't understand about the U.S. military, especially the U.S. Navy. One of the missions of the U.S. Navy is routes like this open. It is to sail the seas to make sure commercial trade is free and open, and it isn't being pirated, that it isn't being shot at like this, or in the what's the other one, the Persian Gulf. Iran likes to threaten that they're going to shut down the Persian Gulf because a lot of oil comes out of there, right? And so there are always these actors who are trying to manipulate and influence things, and the United States military, one of our jobs is to keep global open, because we have a global economy. That's one thing people don't understand. Part of national defense is economic security, right? If you threaten our economic security, you're threatening our national defense. And so the military plays a role in ensuring our economic security stays intact. And so this isn't some needless war. This is a group who is trying to hinder our military and commercial efforts through here. And so, yeah, we need to respond. And they're being heavily funded by Iran. And that's why I'll segue to the Iranian part, because that's really important too. So Iran has been taking some hits. We've talked about in the past that how Iran uses these proxy groups to attack, right? They used Hamas in October 7th. They used Hezbollah in Lebanon and Syria. Well, what's happened since October 7th attack, right? Israel went on the rampage and Israel took out Hamas. And then they turned their attention to Hezbollah and they took out Hezbollah's leadership. I mean, Hezbollah is decimated. And so in terms of proxy groups that are out there, the Houthis are kind of the last one that is still a formidable force that can launch attacks against and U.S. interest. So it benefits us to go ahead and take them out as well and completely kind of cut off Iran from these proxy groups that they use to target U.S. and Israel interest, right? So that is kind of the big picture strategic part. One of the reasons this is important, if you look at the graph, you can't read it, it's too small, but the one with the multiple pictures on it, and the one that's to the furthest left, the different shades of green, that is the number of Shia Muslims who live throughout the Middle East and what percentage they are. And I talked about Iran and Iraq, but Iran has this goal called the Shia Crescent. And it's really the idea that Shia Muslims live throughout the East, right? And so if Iran can flex their influence, and one of the ways they did this was from the map perspective, we look at Iran and say it's a long way from Israel. How can they attack Israel? There we go. Well, if Iran has influence and control in Iraq, which they do because Iraq is 65% Shia and the Shias run the country, and they have a lot of militias in Iraq. And then if you go to Syria and you had the Assad regime in power, and so they've got access to Syria, and Syria borders Israel, and Hezbollah also in Lebanon. So they had this crescent to where Iran could reach Israel through the ground, through these various countries, because they had a Shia connection all the way through. They've also had this dream. So basically what happened in kind of what Iran kind of wants. They had a Shia minority. Now it was a large minority, but it was a minority. 40% of was Shia. And what they did was you get that Shia element to rise up and take the country or to cause trouble in the country. Now Iran has another ally in Yemen that they didn't have before. And so I think Bahrain is like 65% Shia, but the Sunnis run the country, so Bahrain is really sensitive to Iranian influence in their country. I think 10% of Saudi Arabia, 10% of the UAE, Qatar. So they have an element of Shias throughout the East. And the Iranian influence, their goal is to at times stir up that Shia minority to cause trouble within these various Sunni countries. And so that is kind of a big picture strategic kind of thing of what Iran is looking to do and why they have so much conflict with these Sunni nations. All right. So if you look at the middle picture, I'll start with the top. Ayatollah Khomeini. So you hear Iran has a president and a government and all that type of stuff. They do, but none of it matters. The Ayatollah runs the country. He's the religion and the supreme Ayatollah of the Islamic Republic of Iran, right? It is a religious state. And so you have a government element and structure, but even within the government structure, the Ayatollah has so much veto power over everything. At the end of the day, it comes down to the Ayatollah. And so he runs the country from a religious political standpoint. The picture below him with the guy on it with the American caskets and stuff in the White House, that was Soleimani. If you remember when Donald Trump did a very controversial airstrike in Iraq to take out an Iranian general, that's who it was. He was very instrumental because when we talk about that Shia crescent, what ties it all together are these Shia militia groups. You have Shia militia groups in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and then even Hamas down in Gaza, even though it's kind of weird because Hamas is Sunni, but because they are Israel's enemy, Iran funds them and plays nice with them. And then you had the Houthis in Yemen. But what Soleimani was doing, what his job was to go out and he would train these jihadists and militias, and he would fund them, give them weapons and training, how you make explosives. He was the mastermind behind this Shia Crescent type deal. And he was the leader of what's called the Iranian Republic Guard Corps, the IRGC. It's kind of like Iran's special forces. So you have their regular military, and then you have the IRGC on top of that. The IRGC only answers to the Ayatollah, not the president. So the president controls the regular army. That's crap. The regular army's crap. It's all about the IRGC, and they answer directly to the Ayatollah. So let's say there was some uprising and the president tried to take the country. The IRGC is going to restore the Ayatollah. The Ayatollah has the power in the country, militarily, politically, everything. And so Soleimani was his right-hand man and his top general who would go out and make all of this stuff happen. This man was very brutal. These militias are very brutal. And it was all him running. That's why we finally took him out. And then the picture down below with the different flags and the colors, the green, that's just Hamas and Hezbollah. Those are just, like that's who they're using to wage their war. You won't see the Iranian military out there doing things. It's all of these militias they've set up and trained to kind of fight on their behalf. And so that's kind of the big picture as to what is going on. Why is Yemen important? It's important because it's the Iranians' last proxy group that still has any kind of military threat or capability against Israel or us. And so if we take them out, now Iran is completely left kind of cut off. And it also, with the Iranian threat being gone with their proxies, they're going to be less of a threat to these Sunni nations, and you're going to have less tension in the region because you're not going to have that Sunni Shia conflict because Iran doesn't have any more toys to play with. And so that's why this is important. And it's like, okay, let's strike now. Number one, because we have the military justification for it because the Houthis are attacking us. And have sworn to do so, even so they had stopped attacking us for like a couple of months now since the election. Imagine that. So since November, they had kind of stopped attacking us. Well, they announced last week that they were going to restart attacking ships through the Red Sea, and they was like, okay, what's the FAFO? Something about messing around and finding out. Yeah, they're finding out. And so we have taken out several of their leaders because an organization without its leadership is just pointless. Fighters don't know what to do without the orders coming down. A lot of these strikes have taken out their senior leadership. So what do the proxies get out of their arrangement with Iran? Only money. The incentive for them, it is money, but it's power, but it's also their cause is being funded. And they have a legitimate cause. Like, number one, they hate Israel, they hate America, as you can tell from their slogan. But they're also fighting for control of Yemen, and they've got it now. The Hezbollah, their whole goal, and Hamas as well. Once again, death to Israel. And so these people are, and Hezbollah was pretty much running Lebanon, because Hezbollah is really a smart organization. They have a military wing and they have a political, and so they actually held parliamentary seats in Lebanon. And so power and money and influence and a lot of that stuff going on. But at the end of the day, it's ideological. And that's what they're getting out of it. Their causes and their wars are being funded. These people are waging attacks because they believe in their fight against the great Satan and the lesser Satan. The great Satan is America. The lesser Satan is Israel. That's how they view us. And so, yeah, and Iran is funding. That's why elections matter, foreign policy matter. That is why President Biden releasing $100 billion Iraners, because look where they're funding, and you're just gonna release the money and not think that they're gonna fund these things. Also, so President Trump labeled the Houthis a terrorist organization, a foreign terrorist organization. The Biden administration came in and reversed it because they said this, check this out. And the international community was all up in arms as well. And this is why. They said it would hurt the humanitarian efforts within Yemen. So like, it's like if you're labeled a foreign terrorist organization, it prohibits you from getting like aid and stuff like that. You're disqualified from that type of stuff. It's like, oh, that'd be so horrible. We need to have the foreign aid and people are gonna die. And
that's pretty smooth.
And think about what we know. Yeah, think about what we know about foreign aid right now. Think about what we know about USAID and these NGOs. You think these people are really concerned about that, or they didn't want their money flow and stream being cut off to one of their pet projects? And so the Biden administration came in, overturned the designation, and allowed all of the humanitarian aid and stuff like that to flow in. But once again, it just shows you the Biden administration of the through appeasement. That was their strategy. If we treat them nice, if we do them favors, if we bring them in, then they will behave and do the things we want them to do. And it just never works. They just play us like fools, you know. They took that money and just created and did more terror attacks, created more rockets, funded their proxies. And now the new administration has to come in and clean it up. So that's go ahead.
I got a couple questions. One that I saw earlier. Before I get into that, Claire brought up that the Associated Press has stopped using the term terrorism in their reporting.
I'm not surprised.
May I comment for a second?
Hey, the floor is yours, brother.
So, we have people who are concerned about the way that the Trump administration is treating the Associated Press. This right here, Claire's comment here, is an example of why the Trump administration is treating the Associated Press the way that they are. The Associated Press has been off the reservation for years. For years, they've been off the reservation. They've clearly had a left-wing bias to the point of, in my opinion, it's just they don't even try to hide it anymore, or they're just so much in an echo chamber. They're in a bubble so much that they can't even see that they are biased towards the left wing. And so, when they refuse to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, it wasn't really just about that. It's about the fact that the AP has a position, and the fact that they're not willing to use the term terrorism anymore. I don't know if everybody has noticed, but there's been kind of a delineation here across left and right, and the left has for some reason decided that they are going to support the cause of Islam. They're going to support the Palestinians, and they are sensitive to these Islamic nations. And the reason that they are doing that is because, and sorry to start throwing the isms out here, but the Marxist underpinnings of a lot of their positions essentially is what is pulling the lever on which way they go. It's steering the wheel on which way they go on certain issues. And so they perceive Muslims as being oppressed, and therefore they are going to support the Muslims in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and any other conflict in the Middle East. So when you really start to see that with the Obama administration, how they started to take a soft hand towards Iran. Trump came in, he changed that. Biden came in, he flipped it back and started continuing the Obama era positions towards Iran, that position of appeasement, that position of being soft on radical Islam. And I don't even like using the term radical Islam because I think that these folks are following the Quran more closely. We had Laura Zeifer Powell on to give a really detailed explanation of that. Highly recommend that everybody go back and watch that if you want to understand why Islam carries out these ideological wars. That is one of the big things, is that they are actually following their scripture. They are following their text. And the ones who are more violent are actually more faithful to the Quran. So little side note there.
No,
but
facts.
Essentially,
no, it's right. It's a good point.
This is why the Trump administration does not have love for the Associated Press. I haven't had love for the Associated Press for a very long time. When they kicked the Associated Press out, I was like, hey, look, it's about time somebody else got a seat at the helm. You don't get to play favorites and just act like we have to give you a seat, no matter who we is in the White House. We don't have to give you a seat. You don't have a right to a seat. And if you want to be there and essentially be a, dare I say, hostile journalistic outfit in the press box, hostile is not necessarily a bad thing, because if somebody is doing wrong from the seat of power, we expect journalists to call it out. That's what we want the journalists to do. However, when you won't admit that you have a position, and when you are clearly using your position to try to distort certain facts, to distort the narrative on certain things, that, in my opinion, they don't owe you. They don't owe you anything. So, sorry for the long diatribe against the Associated Press there, but they kind of had it coming. And I can understand people on the left saying, well, when the next Democrat president gets in there, they need to kick out Peter Doocy. Look,
and this is the thing. They can having special access to the president is not a right. It is a select, matter of fact, it's a select group. They determine who can and who can't. Every press outlet doesn't get that access.
That's right.
So not getting that access doesn't mean that, oh no, free speech is under attack. It's like, no, that is a privileged seat. The president does not have to give you special access.
Right. That's right.
So yeah, but they're so entitled to that. When they got kicked out, they start to scream freedom of speech, as if freedom of speech is under attack if they don't get special access.
Exactly. And so that's another clarification. Thank you for bringing that up, is that they still get to sit in the broader press pool. They're still in the press pool. They just don't get the special access that they used to have. And yeah, I mean, do I expect Biden or whoever else? I'm almost certain that Peter Doocy ain't flying around wasn't flying around with President Biden on Air Force One. Okay.
So this is the thing too. This, and I know we're sidetracked on this, but I think it's important to talk about in terms of the media and access to the president. So the White House Correspondents Association used to determine who got that special access and who rode with the president on the plane and who flew. It was a special. It's called the White House Correspondents Association. They have nothing to do with the White House. It's just a elitist media association, and they get to control things and handpick who gets to go, right? The Trump administration changed that, took it out of their. No, we'll determine which media outlets get to fly with us and get special access. That is what they're upset about, is
Right.
that their elitist type of grip on control things has slipped away. And so I know we went on a little side note tangent there, but that's kind of I thought it was a good point out about the Associated Press and everything.
Yes. I got one more one more sidetrack.
Okay.
We got to say what's up to Future, our resident
I know, I was just about to do that.
moderator. We got to say what's up to Future. Good to have you here. Appreciate you.
Four Toes. Four Toes is back.
Four Toes. He's still got him right now, but by the end of the show, they're gonna be lopped off. Future, we appreciate you, y'all. Future she's right now our moderator for the chat, so y'all be nice to Future, okay? She might kick you out. She might kick you out of Air Force One.
Yep. Natalie, I think this isn't the first time. I can't remember who. Some got the New York Post. It was either the Biden administration or the Obama administration. Basically kicked out the New York Post one time. And so, no, this isn't the first time, but anything Trump does, they act like it's the end of the world because everything has to be painted as this is fascism.
Right.
This is a dictator.
Right.
So anything he does is like, oh, this is unprecedented. We've never seen this before. And it's like, we kind of have,
It's only fascist because you don't trust them.
Yeah. And that's one of the things too about, that's what I was going to bring up too. You brought up, the Associated Press would not use the term Gulf of America. It wasn't about, we don't think this is a thing that's worth changing or anything like that. It's really ideologically a form of resistance.
It is. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely
This in their minds, they're resisting fascism. They're resisting the dictator. And so it was just a position of defiance. That's all it was.
Exactly. It wasn't something like, oh, that's the correct name. It's like, I don't know if you know this, but we get to decide what we call it officially as a nation. And the other thing, if we look back at, we look back at some stuff. Okay, there was the Gulf of America thing. Also, one of the things that I thought was, that's one of the times where I realized how far they had gone into ideological, just kind of being kind of forward with their ideological position, was after George Floyd, they decided that they would always, AP style, officially
capitalize
in black.
Yeah.
I was like, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I see where y'all are. I mean, like, listen, I don't need my ethnicity. I don't need my ethnicity capitalized. I don't need that. So y'all gonna capitalize black, but not anybody else. Oh, okay. All right. We see where you are. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. White doesn't get capitalized. Just black.
Nope. Nope. Yeah. Well, no, they can't hand the whites a capital W in any form. See what I did there? But we digress. I hand the floor back to you, Sir Briggins.
Yeah, so I was just talking about the strikes in Yemen. We took out a lot of the, I can say a lot. We took out some things that.
All right, we got him back.
I'm back. Oh, it's so frustrating. So yeah, we took out some leadership. We took out some military targets. So the whole point is to degrade their capability. So we're taking out radar. So they have a air defense system. They have surface-to-air missiles. I mean, they have legit military stuff. And so we're taking out all of those targets. And this is the thing I'll talk about from an intel perspective. When there's an adversarial nation, so you got to remember, our military is broken down in what we call COCOM. So you've got Central Command, CENTCOM, responsible for just the Middle East. That's all they focus on. You've got SOUTHCOM, you got EUCOM. SOUTHCOM is South America, and so these different COCOMs, they're not focused on the whole world. They only focus on what's in their region of the world. Well, any nation that we might conflict with or we view as non-friendly, we got a target list. There is some analyst somewhere tracking particular targets all the time, so we know where they are. So when someone says go on day one, we know where we want to hit. Guarantee you, they already knew where the leadership was. They already knew where particular weapon systems were. And so, yeah, when they got the green light to say go, the target list is already done, And so it's one of those things of, the general public just doesn't understand that we're watching. Yemen was, and the Houthis were already a target. Someone was assigned to that, and we've been tracking and keeping up with every piece of equipment, every key leadership personnel. We probably know where his house is, his mama house, his baby mama house, and and we're gonna, and on day one, things just start raining down. We just start hitting these targets, and so it's not just random. It's not, we just decided to launch some missiles. No, we know where the key targets are and what we want to. It's just a matter of how intense it be. I understand this needs to be not just 2 or 3 days. This needs to be a long campaign of continuously bombing and hitting targets and hitting new targets. And there's a thing called the intelligence, and so we just have a way of hitting targets and realizing, okay, what are the new targets now, and just continuing to refine those targets once the initial targets are hit, because they're going to move things, people are going to move, and so we just have a way of developing new targets as it goes on, and so that's what we're going to start seeing. And so this thing, the Houthis at the end of the day are going to be completely not destroyed, because I think they got like 40,000 fighters. So we're not trying to go in there and kill everyone. What we're trying to do is take out their ability to launch attacks, right? So if you take out, they only got a certain number of radars. They only have a certain number of missiles, right? They only have a certain number of, certain types of weapons. And so we know if we can take out all of these, can't launch attacks on ships, right? If we take out all of these, they can't launch attacks on our drones. And so we're going through to hit the command and control. So you want to hit the leadership, and then you want to just hit particular equipment to make sure that they can't launch attacks. Where that leaves them, and also if you heard the president's statement, even in that news report, he talked about this is on Iran. He said Iran has to immediately stop funding them. So we want to cut off the funding. We want to cut off their supply of weapons. We want to take out what they currently have. So now they're no longer a threat. The issue that Iran has is if we go out and do this to the Houthis could lose control of the country. Because like I said, they're still at conflict with the country. They only control a part of it. They don't even control the whole country. And so if we decimate them militarily and they don't have the capabilities anymore, they could end up losing all of their influence within Yemen. And so Iran is in a hard place because they them, but then what are we going to do if they keep on? But if they don't fund them, how long can they survive without Iranian backing them? And so, yeah, this is the world of global politics that is being played, and the Ayatollah has a decision to make. And I'm telling you, it's a lot different making that decision when Trump's in office versus when Biden is in office. Because when Biden's going to roll the dice and play his bluff, he's not going to do nothing. I don't know if they want to do that with Trump.
No, I don't think they
Trump
do.
killed Soleimani, and I don't think Soleimani they thought he was untouchable, and we took him out.
Yep. They messed around with Trump, and then they heard that Warren G start playing. They heard that Warren G start playing, and they thought like, oh man, I thought my boy was untouchable. So yeah, I think you're right. I think they think twice about that. Man, I think that one of the biggest things that I wanted with a Trump administration coming back into office was that strength part of peace through strength. That one thing we talk about. I practice martial arts, and one of the things that I was taught is that we make this we make this symbol when we're showing respect to another martial artist, and what that means is strength wrapped in humility. The humility doesn't mean that much if the strength is not there. So
exactly.
If you are saying that, hey, I don't want to do nothing, but if you make me, I will. That doesn't mean anything if the strength is not demonstrated from time to time. When somebody decides to test the waters, to test the line, which the Houthis, literally did. They did test the waters, and so I think that that's one of the things I've wanted to see for the last 4 years is just that our foreign policy has teeth again, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. I'm trying to find this Reagan quote. It's one of my favorite quotes, where he talked about the American people. Let's see if I can find it. It's a great quote about. Here it is. I just found it. Let me get down to the end of the speech. Let's see. I just go back out and look and read that part. So he says it was a Memorial Day speech. He was talking to our enemies. You remember we're in the Cold War. And he basically he just said that peace is the ultimate goal of the American people. And he said, basically, we will sacrifice for it. We will fight for it. But one thing we will never do, we will never, what's the word he used? I lost it. I'm
trying to look it up. I'm trying to look it up real quick. Let me see if I can find it. Reagan quote on peace.
Yeah. I've listened to that speech so many times. I can't find the actual writing, the actual words to it. Oh yeah, I know what he said. He said we'll never surrender for it.
Yeah. That's good.
So
that's good.
Yeah. So peace is a goal, and we'll fight for it. We'll strive for it, but we'll never surrender for it. Right? We're not just going to lay down and give up for the sake of peace. And I think that's what so many people think peace is. They think peace is just being a pacifist.
Yes.
And that's not. That has never in the history of the world brought peace.
That's right.
It just hasn't, because that's not how the real world operates. No. People have this ideological utopia of we are the world, from the 1980s, Michael Jackson, them singing. And it's that's not the real world. The real world is cutthroat, dangerous. And if you don't have the big stick, whoever does will use it.
Right? That's right. That's exactly right. that is one of the things that I think a lot of people don't consider about the nature of the world is that the default is not civilization. The default is not peace. The default is violence and chaos and living in the jungle. That is the default of the world. And anything that happens on top of that is because somebody had to fight for that in some way. They had to sacrifice. They had to build. They had to be willing to put their life on the line in the face of evil. The reality is that people who want power, at the end of the day, if all of our laws and our Western sensibilities are removed, and even in the East, to a large degree in the East, in some respects, when those things are removed, the thing that is in a world without, one of the things that my my kung fu teacher taught me, in a world without rules, force wins. That's essentially what happens.
Yes.
And so it isn't that if we appease them that everything's gonna turn out well. We just need to appease them and everything will be okay. There is the reality. There has to be the reality that if we are unable to reach an agreement here, if it devolves into violence, there is a real credible threat there, and we will use deadly force if we're not able to reach a better agreement here. And if that threat is not there, you don't have bargaining chips. You don't have bargaining chips. And that's something that I think a lot of people in the West, because the West has been so successful at creating peaceful civilization, people forget that behind all of this is the big stick that says, if we can't reach a peaceful agreement, you don't want what's on the other side. You don't want that. So let's figure this out.
Yeah. The Western world since World War II has lived in a time of peace we've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it has, when there's peace, when there is peace the way we've had it since the 1940s, you get the privilege to sit around and think of the dumbest ideas, right? Have no wants, no needs, no troubles. You can think about all the philosophical, high and lofty things from your ivory tower, you know, because you have the luxury to do so. And that's what the West has been in. That's one of the reasons the West has declined the way it has, because we've lost sense to some degree what reality is, like what the world is really like.
Yes.
Because the Western world is not the norm.
No.
It's not the norm. And we take it for granted, and we don't realize how privileged we are to live in the West and to live in this time. Because even if we look at the history of the West, it's conflict and war.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This sense of peace that we've had since World War II. I mean, because we had a common enemy in the Soviet Union, right? And so we were fighting communism in Vietnam, Korea, you know, up through the Cold War. And then the Soviet Union collapsed, and it's just been us.
Yeah.
It has just been us. And for 30 years. And we've gotten spoiled. And now, we have China that's out there as a potential near peer threat. It's definitely an economic peer and threat. But military, they look like they're a peer and a threat. So we have that again. But it's just gotten comfortable and lost its way, and completely just doesn't understand how the rest of the world operates, how the rest of the world thinks. And we think that they think like us. And that's why we make the decisions we make, at least from I'll say from it's both political parties, because the Bush administration made the same mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, thinking, we're going to be seen as liberators in Iraq, and like, you made the same mistake, you know, thinking you can put democracy in Afghanistan. Everybody's not like us. You just can't. And so that is one of the downfalls of the West, is we're so privileged. We don't understand the privileged position that we're in and how the rest of the world operates. And so, yeah, man, that was a good, I didn't expect to go down that route. I really did. You know, we went from the Houthis to Western civilization.
But it is, I mean, if you think about it, it's all connected, because people need to understand. You know, I love that you have such a depth of knowledge of why we would even engage, and we have to understand that there is evil out there. There is evil, and I'm not just calling people who don't have our exact value system evil. That's not what I'm doing here. So I want people to understand that. It's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying is that there are people who still are operating at that layer underneath our Western politeness, our Western order, They're operating at that force winds layer, and they don't care about you. They care about power.
I'm gonna give you a great example of this. I was trying to help people understand. So I went on a podcast to talk what's happening in Syria, and because they were saying, oh, Christians are being slaughtered and all this type of stuff. And I had to really point out, like, look, y'all, Alawite minorities attacked the soldiers, the new government forces. The new government forces is responding to being attacked. Are they responding heavy-handed? Yes. But at the same time, you got to remember, this isn't a professional military. They aren't Western. They have never heard of the Geneva Convention, right? And in the rest of the world, when you go through and conquer somebody or you're responding to an attack, there is no such thing as this is an enemy combatant and this is a civilian. That's us. That's the West. The rest of the world doesn't believe in civilian casualties. Like, not even Russia. Russia cares nothing about civilian casualties. We only ones that have that moral framework. And so when people are, oh my goodness, they're slaughtering the women and children, it's like, have you read a history book? That is the way the world works. When people go to war with someone, they slaughter everybody. There is this idea that we're just going to hit the military targets, and that is post-World War II Western civilization.
Yes.
That is not the way the rest of the world works.
And I would argue.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I would argue that is a Christian influence on the West that causes that.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I say that's why it doesn't happen everywhere else, right? It doesn't happen in the Islamic world. It doesn't happen, in the Far East. Like, it's doing what we do. That's what makes it so frustrating from a military perspective, knowing all the hoops we jump through to try to prevent civilian casualties, and knowing that our enemy doesn't at all, but yet we get all the criticism and blame. And it's just frustrating. It's like you have everything I do, I have a lawyer over my shoulder telling me we can't strike this, we can't strike that. Oh, that's it. Hey, if you're getting shot at, you might be able to, but check with us and we'll let you know. We adjudicate wars through lawyers because we're trying to adhere to these rules that our enemy cares nothing about. Right.
That's right. That's right.
And yet the media, the AP, our own media simply criticizes us. It's like, you have no idea the hoops I'm jumping through, but this guy is wearing jeans and flip-flops, and he has an RPG shooting from an apartment complex.
Right.
What do you want me to do?
Right. That's exactly right. And
he doesn't care about civilian casualties. He's not trying to separate himself as a military member and being away and from civilian populations. No, we're civilian populations against people who are trying to kill us from around the corner. And you telling me, you kill civilians? Like, yeah, it's
right.
It's urban
there's
warfare.
Going to be some collateral damage. We try to minimize that as much as possible. Yeah. When people talk about how the war is going between Israel and Palestine, right? Israel and Hamas, I should say, but really it's Palestine because Palestine overwhelmingly supports Hamas. Okay, but they are trying to minimize civilian casualties. But guess what? Despite what Hamas pushes out and lies through the media, they don't care about their civilians and they don't care about ours. Okay? They don't care about their civilians. They don't care about Israel's civilians. They don't care about our civilians that are overseas. They don't care about any of that. They
like care about them. They care about them. They just care about wanting them dead.
Yeah,
because civilian casualties are good for them.
Yes. Because it's fighting the great Satan.
Prime example,
as in their eyes.
Yeah. And they know our media. I'm trying to use nice words. Our media is gullible. Our media is gullible. And so, for example, Israel sends out phone calls and text messages to an area before they bomb it, right? They drop leaflets into an area before they bomb it. Then tell them, hey, get out because we're going to bomb this area. You know who does not allow those people to leave? Hamas.
Right.
because they want the civilian casualty. They want those people there.
Yeah.
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 And so but who gets the blame? Our media doesn't point that out.
That's
Our
right.
media just simply blames, Israel has killed 30,000 civilians or whatever the number is that Hamas makes up.
Right.
And it's just so frustrating that our media is not gullible. They're intentional. They are part of the problem of the propaganda machine because they've chosen a side. And so they intentionally push the propaganda. And then the American people don't know it's propaganda because it's from the Associated Press.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just the frustrating part. Yeah.
And I'll say, my wife is a former journalist. She's a former news producer. So she doesn't like it when I generalize the media. We're not saying every single person in the media.
No.
We're not saying most of
I'll
them.
frame it this way. I'll frame the legacy corporate media. How about that? Is that?
The reality is that most of the media that has a lot of influence, because let's be real, who watches local news anymore? And even local news to a degree, they've taken a position because they're corporate owners.
It's corporate, and it comes down. I have to say it sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And so I mean, the hard thing is that when the AP is saying stuff. And you might, you might be a left-leaning person, and you're looking at, the folks on the right who don't trust anything that the media says anymore, and you feel like culturally, you're like, well, I don't want to be like them. The media said this. This is probably closer to the truth, especially because it aligns with, kind of the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
And the appeal that I would make to that person is, it is not that a person on the right who is being honest thinks that everything that the media says is false no matter what. That's not the case, despite the rhetoric. A person who is honest, and that's one of the reasons we started this show, a person who's honest is going to say, is this true or not? And unfortunately, it just happens too much that the organizations like the AP will take a line on something that has an ideological position baked in that is not taking into account or is not being fair to the argument from the other side or straight up the facts on the ground sometimes. And so when you look at the AP deciding, oh, hey, like, we're not going to call it the Gulf of America, you guys are taking a line. You're taking a position. When you're going to capitalize black, it's like, guys, you're taking a line. Nobody asked for that. You're taking a line. You're taking a position that weakens your credibility. And so for the left-leaning person, try to understand that there is a bias baked in. And I've seen so many left-leaning people since the election kind of admit, and leading up to the election was one of the reasons I think that Trump won, because there's so many people who considered themselves on the left who actually wound up voting for him. They said, I didn't realize that I lived in such an echo chamber. There's so many people who came to that realization. I think that's my appeal to the person who considers themselves left-leaning. Really consider that there is stuff to be criticized in the media. There is a problem there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if I've ever talked about what I actually did in the military. So I say intelligence, and that takes a lot of different forms. I did a lot of different things, but one of the things I did for the majority of my career, I worked in what's called aerial ISR, the news about drone strikes and all of this type of stuff. That's the type of operations I was a part of. Mainly supporting special operations going out to high value targets. So think of top of terrorizations and people out there doing various things. And you would see the reporting on the news and the way it was always slanted because drone strikes became very controversial. But it was like, you have no idea the hoops that we'd have to jump through and the fail safes that are in place to help us to not only make decisions on is this the right target? Because it's all about communication. And so we even seen what was the hospital that got struck accidentally? The Without Borders hospital. They got accidentally struck because there was just miscommunication on what the building and the target was. Um, so those mistakes that have happened, those are lessons learned, those are things you try to go back and fix. But it's all about communication, and it's all about and tell you. And this is why I will tell you. The enemy thought more of us than our own people did a lot of times. Because bad guys, they knew that we would strike at certain times or in certain situations. So what they would do is they would never get in a vehicle without a child, because they knew if they had a child with them, we wouldn't strike a vehicle, right? It was things like that. It's like the enemy has more respect for us and knows how we think and operate than our own country and media does. It's like, no, we don't try to strike women and children, right? We go through leaps and bounds to try not to do that. Does it happen sometimes? Absolutely. Is it a mistake? Absolutely. But this idea that, you're just out here just going through and not caring and just dropping bombs, it's like, no, that is not the way it works. And so it was extremely frustrating to see the way the news reported things. And of course, at the time I was in the military, so you can't talk about it. You can't say anything. You can't come out and say the AP is wrong on this, or the way they're spinning this isn't true. But now that I'm out and I got the beard, I can say, yeah, the way they were spinning this stuff about drone strikes, it just wasn't true. We went through a lot of procedures and authorities and checks and balances. And I'll just give an example. I mean, we would watch, let's say we're watching a particular individual. We would take tally of men, women, and children at a particular location, right? And then when that person would leave or something in their vehicle, we would take a count or a tally of who's all in the vehicle, right? We were trying our best to make sure that there were no women and children around. There were no non-enemy combatants around. It did happen. We weren't killing any kind of kids and women. And so, but that just doesn't get talked about. It doesn't get reported. But those are the things that only happen in Western society, in Western militaries. No one else does that. The Russians bombed Syria. That's the frustrating part. When the Russians were bombing in Syria, they cared nothing about civilians. They were dropping, major bombs on buildings and just taking out complete city blocks. They care for a civilian. But there was nothing written on that. No media, no outrage. There was no camp protest against what the Russians were doing in Syria. No one cared. They only care when it's us and when it's a mistake that they can capitalize on to spin the propaganda a certain way. And that is the frustrating part, that we don't have to just win the war on the ground. We have to try to win the information in the narrative war, because that's where we lose it. And so, man, I did not expect us to go down this route. But it's just like you said, it's all connected, right? And so when people start talking about these wars and why are we getting this and that kind of stuff, peace through strength or peace through appeasement, and it just all has consequences. It all has tied back to how you understand the world. It all ties back to just kind of the not just your value system, but just your worldview as well. And so that's why elections are important. So
no, and I mean the other thing is your understanding of actions that, like we said, that have to be taken comes from your understanding of these dynamics, the nature of the world. I would argue from a philosophical standpoint, your understanding of the nature of man, whether you think that man is inherently good or inherently evil.
Yeah.
I would just say take a good look at the world, but
Yeah.
I'm
Or
oversimplifying, of course, but
no, you're right. You're right. And I'm just going to give a prime example of what we were doing in Afghanistan and Iraq. We're trying to prevent the person that's going to strap on a suicide vest and walk into a market and blow themselves up. And we're trying to get them before they get there. Right. That is the difference. They are literally strapping a bomb to themselves, or I'll tell you what, I'm gonna tell you how far they go. They will strap a bomb to a mentally challenged woman because she won't get searched because she's mentally challenged and she's a woman, and they will send her in and they will remote detonate her to kill as many people as they can. That is what we're fighting, or that's what we were fighting. Like, people don't understand the level of evil that is out there, and yet our own media, we're getting the criticism because of an accident or even false reporting about civilian casualties. Because it's the thing, when they talk about, all these civilians got killed, it's like, how you know they were civilians? None of them wear uniforms.
Oh man, that's so good, man. Oh
yeah,
that's good.
I'm being real.
Yeah,
I'm like, we're trying to determine who's civilian and who's an enemy combatant. How do you know they're not wearing uniforms? They don't wear name tapes. They don't have military IDs on them. Like, they're just terrorists. So how do you know who's involved in what? They didn't. And so they get reported as civilian casualties.
Man, that's wild. I've never even thought to ask that question because I don't have your perspective on that. That you guys are looking at people who look like civilians all the time. If you don't know, how do they know? I mean, if they got intel that's good, if that's that good, maybe they could share it.
Exactly. But it's the thing. It's always the NGOs. It's always the humanitarian agencies in there on the ground that's saying, "Oh, these were these were civilians." They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know.
Oh man. Oh man. Dude, I know we need to talk about Russia, but before
we do.
We get into that, I just want to say the more that I learn about what you're actually doing in the military, man, just the more I appreciate you, appreciate what you're doing for our country, man.
Hey man, it was you went to work every day knowing you made a difference. I'll say that. And so, it wasn't always easy. I have friends who have PTSD because of things we saw, and just, I tell everybody I'm just a little messed up because it doesn't bother me. I've seen way too many videos and images of the most gruesome things you can think of. And I'm like, nah, that's gross, but it's just, you just have an understanding of the world. And so, but we went to work every day trying to save lives and solve problems and trying to end the conflict. And so, I appreciate it. But like I said, I had a fulfilling career because we felt like we went to work every day and we made a difference. So, yeah,
that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So some things happening there in Russia and Ukraine.
Yes,
I'm interested to get your take on that. We got some stuff to look at, do we not?
Yeah, video. We can play it or not. It's up to you.
Oh yeah,
it's really short.
Let's jump into it, man. Let's jump into it. Let me make sure that I don't have no gaffes. Okay, let me make sure I don't have no gaffes. Here we go. All right.
Ooh. Tonight, Ukraine has now agreed to a U.S. plan for an immediate 30-day ceasefire with Russia. Secretary of State Marco Rubio leading the negotiations. But of course, the question tonight, will Vladimir Putin agree to this? President Trump saying he plans to talk to Putin, and the president says he would invite President Zelensky back to the White House now. ABC's chief international correspondent James Longman in Ukraine tonight.
Is this the first step towards peace in Ukraine? After 8 hours of talks, Ukraine has agreed to a U.S. proposal for an interim 30-day ceasefire.
We'll take this offer now to the Russians. And we hope that they'll say yes, to peace. The ball's now in their court.
The talks in Saudi Arabia called for immediate negotiations to end this war, the first US-Ukraine meeting since that Oval Office blow-up. Trump today hopeful.
Ukraine has agreed to it, and hopefully Russia will agree to it. We're going to meet with them later on today and tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to wipe out a deal.
A proposed prisoner exchange, the return of forcibly displaced Ukrainian children, and a commitment to signing the minerals deal, all part of the discussion. The US also announcing they'll lift the pause on military aid and intelligence sharing. That may have already had an impact on the battlefield. Videos circulating online show Russian forces planting flags in areas Ukraine once controlled. But all this hinges on Russia's willingness to accept and reciprocate on the terms of the deal, and that is far from certain. Putin has consistently ruled out a ceasefire, the administration hoping to change his mind.
Before you can negotiate, you have to stop shooting at each other. That's the commitment we got today from the Ukrainian side, their willingness to do that. Obviously, now that'll be delivered to the Russians.
Hours before today's meeting, Ukraine launched the biggest drone attack of this war so far, reaching all the way to Moscow, injuring at least 20 people. And tonight comes word that Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, is headed to Russia to try to get Putin to agree to the ceasefire.
And the big question here tonight, David, what does Vladimir Putin make of all this? Donald Trump says his good relationship with Russia means he's the man to get a deal. Well, that will be severely tested. And Volodymyr Zelensky, will he be back at the White House for a perhaps more cordial meeting second time round? David.
James Longman live in Key for us again tonight. James, thank you.
Yeah. So that is interesting.
Thank you all. Thank you. Please.
Oh, 1 second here.
Please take a seat.
Man, YouTube with its autoplay there.
I know, right?
That is. I just want to point out something, kind of connected to what we were saying about the media before. They take everything that Trump says way too seriously. Like when he says, I have a great relationship with Putin, like he's kind of like halfway like messing around, like it's just kind of like to him, he sees it as like hey, I got a good relationship with Putin, but like also everybody kind of knows, like if you have two brain cells to rub together, like you know that there's no real relationship there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
or he had an interview recently about this deal, and the reporter asked him, like, she's like, no, in the campaign trail, you said that you would end this war in 24 hours. He's like, well, yeah. Like, it's like, it's not literal. Like, there might be some hyperbole in that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's not allowed though. It's not allowed. Now listen, Biden can fall down at the podium, okay? But hyperbole, not allowed. Not allowed.
Like, nobody really thought it was a literal 24 hours. Like, come on, y'all. But yeah, man, I've talked a lot about Yemen and stuff. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Russia, Ukraine.
I think that the biggest thing here is, does Putin actually agree to it? Here's my attitude. We talked about having the big stick. And one of the things that a lot of people like to point out, and I had to be brought along on how Trump is handling some of this stuff as well, because at first I was like, I don't know about this, and there are a lot of conservative commentators that were like, and some of them I will respect, who I think they have very balanced views. They don't have Trump derangement syndrome and stuff. Like, I don't know about the way the dude's talking about this. I still don't like some of the language that he used towards Ukraine and Zelensky. And I think that he did that because he's mad at Zelensky, because Zelensky supported Kamala Harris. That's why.
That's what it is.
There's a vendetta.
That's what it is. Yeah.
I don't think that it is guiding his overall position on Ukraine and who the bad guy and the good guy is. I think that Trump is using certain language. There's a famous former FBI negotiator that I follow called Chris Voss. And really cool book that he wrote called Never Split the Difference. He was the lead hostage negotiator for the FBI for a number of years. Jeff saying he's got to go. Jeff, appreciate you being here tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Come check us out. And you all, as I'm taking this aside, let us know if you like the Sunday time better than the Friday time, because we're considering moving to Sundays from now on. I don't know. The viewership numbers are saying that people like the Sunday time better already. So our viewership numbers are much higher than they typically are on a Friday night. So I think you guys are speaking loud and clear. But the thing that I think with this is overall, people say, "Oh, Trump is too soft on Russia. He's soft. He's cozying up to the dictators. Yada yada yada." And there's a minute there where I was like, "Well, what's going on right here?" But then I took a step back and I said, "There's no way that this is actually happening." Rubio wouldn't go along with it if that's what was actually happening. And so as we've seen this play out, look what just happened. What was this? A couple of days ago, if that, Trump basically said, "Hey, listen, Russia, we have an agreement from Ukraine to do a ceasefire. If you don't agree to the ceasefire, we're implementing new sanctions." And he put out a message on which I think it's hilarious that he puts out messages on Truth Social to speak to foreign dignitaries. It's just hilarious. But he put out a message on Truth Social and straight up said, "Hey, listen, if you don't agree to this thing immediately, we're implementing new sanctions." And then what happened? Putin comes back, is like, "Okay, all right, I'm willing to talk about it, you know."
We agree with it in principle, but it's some details to iron out.
Yeah. So you see that happen, and you say to yourself, "Okay, I didn't like some of the rhetoric. I still don't like some of the rhetoric, but some of the maneuvering." Chris Voss talks about the fact that you have to, when you're dealing with a terrorist, somebody who's holding hostages, etc., you have to still speak to that person. You have to speak
as
to
if they're
them
a person,
like they're a person. You have to do that. You can't go in there like, "You're a terrorist, you're a piece of crap," yada yada. You're not going to get where you want to go by doing that. And so my attitude is that I think it's working. I think what he's doing is working, and I have returned to my position of let him cook. Let the man cook. That's where I'm at.
I agree with his strategy, and his strategy does work. Well, I agree with you. That is his strategy, and his strategy has been successful. On this one, though, I don't know how confident I am. So apparently him and Putin are going to talk this week. So I think Russia believes they're winning. They believe a ceasefire only benefits Ukraine right now. And from what I've heard, their demands for a ceasefire is pretty much Ukraine give up, like lose the war right now. Not a 30-day ceasefire so we can negotiate the end of the war. It's almost like Ukraine, you're done. It's like, that's not a 30-day ceasefire agreement. But Russia's trying to play the big dog. So, and because if they can delay this, they're going, and they believe they're winning right now. And so they're pushing. Like you saw in that video, they was like, "Hey, Ukraine used to hold, Russia now holds," and they're putting up Russian flags. Like, they're making the progress. This is my question. If Russia decides they don't agree to the ceasefire, what's the consequences? And to me, it can't just be sanctions. It can't be. I'm gonna tell you what I would do. I would be willing to go as far as to say, if you do not agree to this ceasefire, not only are we going to arm the Ukrainians, we are going to hit Russian targets in eastern Ukraine. We're going to hit your frontline troops in Ukraine if you do not agree to this ceasefire. Because at the end of the day, you don't want this smoke. You can threaten us with nukes. You ain't trying to go nuclear. Stop it. And you don't want a war with us because you know you lose it. Your economy ain't strong enough, and your military can't even beat the Ukrainians. So don't even play like you want to go to war with us. We will hit your troops. We won't hit you in Russia. We're not going to touch your homeland. But we will hit your frontline soldiers in Ukraine until you agree to the ceasefire. That would be my position. And I'm not worried about some World War III crap. That's not going to happen. And so, yeah, I would be willing to be very provocative and say, bro, if you don't sign this ceasefire, we're going to hit you. It's your soldiers, because you're in occupied territory, dude. You're in Ukraine. And not to mention, we already have a legal, I'm not going to say illegal, we already have a treaty to defend Ukraine against you that you signed. When Ukraine became an independent,
wow.
Yes, when Ukraine became an independent state and they agreed to give up their nuclear weapons, they did it in exchange of security guarantees. And Russia signed it, we signed it, the UK signed it, and I think France signed it. As like the powers at the time to say, okay. And so Russia actually violated that treaty when they invaded and took Crimea.
Right.
Right. Because technically we should have came and defended Ukraine because that was part of their agreement for giving up their nukes. Right. Because if they had nukes, Russia wouldn't invade them. Right. And so they gave up nukes under the promise that we would protect them, you know, kind of like a NATO type of thing. But it was some security guarantees from Russia, and even Russia in their agreement said, hey, Crimea is yours. You know, Russia signed off on all of this stuff in the early 90s. And Putin just said, forget it. No, we don't recognize any of that. We own Ukraine. Crimea is ours. Eastern Ukraine is ours. Like, violated. So we already have a treaty that says we can come in and defend Ukraine. And so that's what I would do. I'm not going to hit Russia in Russia. I'm not trying to provoke you that way, but I can decimate your front line, dude, because you're already struggling fighting the Ukrainians. If I come in and start dropping stuff on you, Ukrainians going to start pushing forward and take their territory back. Right. So you can sign the peace agreement and we can go to the table, or we can just do it the hard way. And that would be my position. I
like that position a lot better. I'll tell you that.
It just can't be sanctions. They're already under sanctions. And then when we put sanctions on them, the Chinese just back them up and start buying their oil and doing other things, right? The Chinese help them out economically. And then Russia, they're part of BRICS now. And so they're using BRICS to kind of get around sanctions. And so, you gotta go in there and give them something to think about, more so than just sanctions.
How we get Kevin in the room with Trump? That's what I'm trying to figure out, man.
He's got people around. He's got people around him. Look, I have been a Marco Rubio guy. In 2016, when everybody was trying to vote for Trump, Marco Rubio was my guy. Because he was the only. Strong. He was the only person who knew what Salafism was, right? He would talk about, he wouldn't say Islam. He would talk about militant Salafism. I'm like, that dude know what he's talking about. And it's because he was on the Senate Intelligence Committee. So he understood things. And he would give these very intelligent answers. And then the media would be like, okay, that was fine. But Trump called him little Marco, right? And so it's like the intelligent answer got no press coverage, but the insult is all they wanted to talk about.
Oh my gosh, man. That whole thing. It's like, I'm listening to Rubio and I realized, I was like, dude, okay, Rubio's really, really smart on foreign policy. We're seeing him shine. I mean, the dude is shining right now. He is crushing it. I mean, some of the things that he is saying out there are just outstanding. He's actually making it, in my opinion, he's making it easy to understand, easy for people to understand why we're making certain moves and taking certain positions. And I didn't like that that wasn't appreciated enough in the 2016 election. And I think part of the problem is, like, foreign policy can be kind of, if you're here and you're an average person in America,
Yeah,
it's just,
I
it
get
just,
it.
feels far away, feels like it doesn't matter. It's nerd stuff. We got problems here, and I understand. I totally understand. But I do think that Rubio's doing a fantastic job, and he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, I thought he was for an administration that's trying to go against the grain. I thought that it was smart to put him in that seat.
Yeah.
As someone who's established and understands, because you can't play around with foreign policy, right?
Right.
Secretary of State needs to be someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, pick Claire's comment up there. Her question.
Oh, yes. Very good.
That's a
one
good
right
question. Yeah. Is that what Zelensky was referring to in the infamous White House meeting? It was. And it wasn't that he was wrong. Is what Vance said was, this ain't the time and the place for that. Don't do it in the media. And he said, you need to get better at diplomacy. So it's not like, though, yeah, that conversation can be had, but that's behind the scenes. It's like, if I'm Trump, I tell Putin that in a meeting. I don't come out to the public and like, I told him if he don't get it together, we gonna have some problems. No, you come out you say it behind the scenes because you don't want to make him look bad in public. And you say, we had some very productive talks. The Russians have said, they're very committed to peace. You just say the right things, and I think we have a way forward. We're close, and everybody's on the same. Like, you say those types of things, but behind the scenes, you tell them, "Hey, man, if you don't sign this, we're gonna knock your head off." But you can't embarrass him to the public. You can't embarrass him to his own country because he has to be a strong leader. You can't make him look weak. If you make him look weak, you're gonna make him do something stupid because now he can't look weak.
Yes.
Man. And I'm just gonna say something because now I just thought about it. These are hood rules.
Yes.
These are rules in the street.
Yes.
Like,
that's so true.
If you disrespect the guy, you make him look weak in front of his boys or his girl or something, and you take away his honor, he's gonna have to do something stupid to get it back.
Yeah.
And it's probably gonna have to kill you. Right. And so
that's right.
You don't put him in a position where he has to defend his honor, right? And so this goes to foreign policy as well, and that's what they was trying to tell Zelensky, like, dude, shut up.
Right?
You keep talking about him, you keep saying this stuff. He gonna have to keep bucking against us because he's got to look strong. Shut up.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and that's what Zelensky just wasn't getting.
Yeah, if you come in here talking, running off at the mouth, then what you're doing is you're undermining his position, and he's got to do something to, like you said, to regain that position. And now I will say. Do I want it to operate by hood rules? No, I don't want it to operate by hood rules. But it ain't just in the hood. It's how things work in general. When you're talking about power balances, when you're talking about the way that people try to understand, who has the balance of power in the room. When you're talking about pack dynamics, right?
Yes.
If you challenge the alpha is going to respond. The alpha is going to respond.
Look weak.
Exactly, because it loses the respect of the pack.
And if he loses that respect, his leadership is now in danger. He's going to lose it. Yeah. And so Claire said, and Trump understands this.
It ain't something.
I think that's what Trump
understand. It ain't something.
No, I think that's what Trump. Yeah, I think that's what Trump was saying when Trump was like, "We made you a tough guy. Like, you're acting like a tough guy. You're talking, guy, but you don't have any cards. Like, you're only tough because of us, right?
Yeah.
Because he was basically saying was, you're talking a tough game, but stop.
Yeah.
Because the more you talk, I'm gonna break it down to the hood and the streets, right? If there's a guy and I'm acting like the tough guy, and I'm calling him out, and I'm telling him what he is and what he ain't gonna do and what we need, and at some point he's going to rise up against me. He's not going to be like, you know what, you're right. Let's make peace. And no, he can't look weak. I did not think I was going to go down this road to this story.
You didn't think you was going to take it to hood logic, man. You didn't think you was taking the hood logic.
So I grew up. That's why I grew up. And there's certain rules you play by if you want to survive. I was 12 years old and I had a gun pulled on me.
Oh man.
And it got pulled on me because we were playing basketball and we were playing with some older guys, they're about 15. And I embarrassed one of those guys, right? All right, joking around, being cracking on him, telling jokes. His boys laughing, right? We think it's all fun and games. And then he left and he came back. And when he came back, he had a gun. He said, now say something now. Wow. You know what I'm saying? It's because I took his honor.
Yeah.
I didn't realize at the time, but yeah, I'm 12, he's 15. Yeah, he pulled the gun on me.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I didn't say anything. He's like, oh, that's what I thought. Now, I wasn't in a position to say something like, yeah, I had to let my honor go because I wanted to live that day.
Yeah.
But it's not just, it's human nature. And when you're dealing with these dictators and these strong men, you can't like take away their honor, right? And that's why Trump's like, Putin's a good guy. That's why he talks him up, right?
Yeah.
He talks him up in the public, right? Because he knows he's in a negotiation and he needs him to be willing to concede some things. But if you make it to where he has to defend his honor, he's gonna do something stupid like pull a gun on a 12-year-old, right?
Right. Because he got to try to look tough. And it's I wound up learning this because it is, like you said, it's just human nature. And in my opinion, it is. I'm gonna come out and say it. It's unregenerate human nature.
Yes.
So
it's pride. I mean, pride.
It's pride.
It's just sinful pride. That's all.
And the reality is that Trump is a very prideful person.
And so is Vladimir Putin.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. So I was taught by my I keep bringing up my kung fu teacher here. I know, but that's
humble brag. Humble
brag. Well, I mean, he's a much better. I mean, he's clearly a much better fighter than me. But he talks about him and his teacher. Actually, I learned from his teacher, who's a former cop. And he's kind of telling us, hey, like, how do you deal with a situation where you got a dude who's operating on that, kind of alpha dog hood logic level? How, when he decides he wants to challenge you, there's a way out of there without violence, but you have to let him leave with his dignity. So that might mean that you got to come out looking a little worse, but to you, because you're supposed to be operating at a higher level, strength wrapped in humility, you're supposed to be okay with that because you know what's real, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to get into a violent conflict, but if a violent conflict starts, the reality is that you got the smoke too. And so you have to be able to let the dude have his leave with his dignity, and you can probably diffuse that without any hands being thrown. And that's the thing that I don't think that Zelensky understood. But I want to go back a little bit to what you said about the fact that there was a treaty that was signed and we made a promise. We made a promise that we were going to give security guarantees because they gave up their nukes. A little bit of this, maybe this is a hot take, but I don't like it personally. I'm curious about your opinion on this. I don't like it when we go around getting people to give up their nukes, and then we say we're going to protect you, and then something happens and we don't do it, right?
Yep.
If I'm thinking about this myself, I'm thinking that's like the U.S. government or the police coming to me and saying, hey, Devin, give up your guns, we'll protect you. And I'm like, no. Like if I'm Ukraine in that situation, and I don't know what the bargaining chips look like back then, but if I'm Ukraine, I'm thinking I'm not giving up my nukes because you're on the other side of the ocean.
Yeah.
How long is it going to take you to get over here? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And I think if they had the nukes, I don't think Vladimir Putin would have been as froggy, man. I don't think he would have jumped.
No, he wouldn't. And what was crazy was, they were part of the Soviet Union. So when the Soviet Union collapsed, they had a lot of nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Ukraine would have been the third largest nuclear power in the world if they had held on to them.
Wow.
Yeah, behind the U.S. and Russia. Yeah, that's how many nukes were in Ukraine. Yeah. And it wasn't just Ukraine part of that deal. It was Kazakhstan and what's the other country? Belarus. So it was all three of them gave up the nukes that were in their territory for the idea of being protected in the future from. Yeah. And so it's called the Budapest Treaty. I think it's treaty. Memorandum, the Budapest Memorandum. And so, because I think they met in Budapest. It's always where you meet is what they call the treaty. But yeah, and so the fact that we don't live up to our word, it makes us weaker because our allies don't know if they can trust us in our word, because at the end of the day, it's like, no, we said that. I mean, it's just not a good time for us right now. Like. Yeah.
I mean, what that's like is you're that 12-year-old on the basketball court, and the dude pulls a gun, and you had a deal with the homies.
Yeah,
the homies were supposed to have your back. If they were if you were getting jumped, the homies were supposed to have your back, and they're just like, "Hey, man, see what had happened was."
Yeah.
You can't say that. You can't say that.
You can't
when
say
stuff
that.
goes down, you got to be willing to bring the smoke. And I don't.
You know what's gonna happen? The next dude ain't gonna trust those dudes and what they say because they gonna saw it, man. No, because when Kevin got to y'all didn't respond. You know?
Yeah.
And so it just takes away the credibility. And so that's why I don't like it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I really, really want your opinion on all of that. Like, do you think that we're living up to our end of the bargain? Like how do you feel about all that,
Man, I'm put like this. So there's principles, and we like to think about principle. And the principle is, especially military guys, we keep our word, right? And our yes be yes and our no be no. That's so Captain America, right? 1920s. That value system of my word means something, and I keep my word. In today's culture, it's more so about interest than it is about principles. And so the key is, and I think that's why this mineral deal is important. And one of the reasons we didn't come to the aid of Ukraine when they lost Crimea is because we have no interest. And so by tying our economic interest to Ukraine, that gives them some hope that we will respond because it is in our interest to, and not just based on the principle of keeping our word, because the principles just don't mean anything anymore. And so I think it's one of the reasons, like NATO, right? NATO works because we have economic ties to Europe, right? We have close relationships to Europe. We're going to respond. Same thing with Taiwan, Japan. We just have no ties to Ukraine, and so that's what they hoping this mineral deal does. is tie us to them so that there is some incentive of U.S. interest for us to respond if we get, invaded again. And so that, to me, that's what it is. It's the principle that you and I would believe in of you keep your word. And yeah, man, that's like I said, that's so 1920s, man. That is those principles that used to mean something as a man, right? As a man, you kept your word because it meant something. Those principles are few and far between today, seems like it.
It's good to hear you say that, because yeah, I mean, that's the way that I think about it, and I think that's one of the reasons why people love Captain America, right? Like,
it is,
but I also think about this. I've seen it in my own life, man. And as Future said, man, you going 5 toes. You're gonna lose all 5 toes, man.
I am.
You 5 toes in, man, on that lemonade. Oh man. But anyway, I think about this because I've seen it happen so many times. I've learned this lesson in business that you can't make these agreements and say, oh, I am going to do this thing in the future. You're trying to get something now and you're writing this agreement. You're going to sign the papers and you're like, hey, like, if this thing happens, this thing happens in the future, we're good for it. Like, we'll sign on the dotted line. We're going to shake hands. We're good for it. And what happens? Well, 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, world's a different place. And, we're like, dang, who signed that thing? Dang. Why do I have to sign that? That's the way that people think about it. And that's the way it happens. That's the way it happens all the time. And so I actually think it's smart. I think it's smart to tie some economic interest, because that does make it to where that, the person who comes down the line next, they're looking like, okay, all right, so, we can't just let this go because this is material to what what we're trying to do. This has effect here at home. We can't just try to find some way to weasel our way out of this agreement, even though I don't want to have to deal with this, because the reality is they don't have to deal with it. They don't have to deal with it. And we've all been in situations. If you're an adult, you have undoubtedly run into a situation where you made a promise and somebody calls you on that promise, even 6 months later, and you're like, dadgummit, why did I say that? I mean, if you got kids, your kids will remember a promise you made to them 10 years ago.
Oh, dude, yes, they do.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, they do.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, you said, in the third month, on the light of the third day, you were going to do this, and I'm here to call you on that. And you're like, dang it, I did say that. But you see it in business, and it's one of the things that I've kind of landed on this in business. I'm very careful about the promises that I make in business, because if there's not a consistent interest that's tied to it, I know that my tendency is going to be, why do I have to keep? Why do I need to do this thing right now? I don't get anything out of it right now, because we're very fickle. I think it's a weakness of humans. We see the incentive now. We have the motivation now. 10 years from now, the motivation is gone. The incentive, we got what we wanted, and we have zero emotional investment in fulfilling our end of the obligation. And I think that it behooves us to make sure that there is something that makes the obligation pay for itself long term. Not just try to go for something right now because it has value right now, because the value that it has in 10 years might not be the same thing to us. Whether it's right or wrong, that's the way it is. We need to do a better job of the promises we make paying for themselves over time because of how flawed we are, in my opinion.
Man, that's great business sense. I mean, I know we're talking foreign policy. That's great business sense, though. Just throwing it out there.
Learn it the hard way. Learned it the hard way. Had some promises called up on me.
Yeah. I do want to address one question.
Yes. What
you've
what we
seen
looking
this? Just the second bullet under the Ukraine-Russia ceasefire. That question.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Oh man, that's a great question. Is NATO to blame for the war? I am so anxious to hear your opinion on this, Mr. Bergens. I am so anxious to hear your opinion on this.
I didn't want to leave without talking about this because I've seen a lot of talk on social media about this, even from some political scientists.
Yep, I've seen the same.
Yeah, and this is my statement. Russia is 100% unequivocally to blame for this war. NATO is not. Ukraine is not. No one made Russia do what they did. No one made them invade Ukraine. And I've heard, all these analogies of, well, if China was, trying to get, sign a treaty with Mexico to put weapons on our borders, we wouldn't stand for that either. I'm like, stop thinking everybody's like us. Every situation is not a one-to-one. Like I said, there's a reason Ukraine had security guarantees for giving up their nukes against this country that had just conquered them, right? They had just got their independence from. So that's the context. And then you add to the fact that Russia already invaded them in 2014 and took part of their country. Russia invaded Georgia in 2008. They did some other things too. Oh yeah, Chechnya. Like Russia has done over and over again. It has nothing to do with NATO from a security standpoint. So NATO is not a military threat to Russia. NATO is not going to invade Moscow. It's just not a thing. This is what Putin hates. NATO takes away Putin's ability to leverage his political and military power against his neighbors. He can't bully his neighbors. And his geopolitical belief is that there are certain powers in the world, Russia, China, the US, I want to say India is another one, but like in their sphere, in their part of the world, in their region, they should have autonomy to do as they please, right? He should be able to invade Ukraine, tell Ukraine what to do if he therefore chooses, because they're Russia and it's in their sphere, so we shouldn't have anything to do with it. That's his mindset. And so when countries become part of NATO and they get that protection that, hey, if Russia attacks me, everyone comes to my aid, now they don't have to bow down to the bully. They can say no to Russia because they know that Russia can't just come kick their door down and take their stuff. That's what Putin hates. And that's what he doesn't want Ukraine to be a part of. It has nothing to do with Russian national security. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. This is not the Cuban Missile Crisis. This is not putting nuclear weapons in Cuba. This is NATO is a defense pact. That's all it is. It's just a defense pact that says, if I get attacked, all of my friends have to come to my aid. That's what it is. If you go and start an attack, no one has to come to your aid, right? So there's no Ukraine is not going to invade Russia. There is no military threat to Russia. And yet Russia took this as an opportunity to invade and they tried to take the whole country, and they failed. But they had already taken Crimea in 2014. Now they're invading them again. Like, this is all on Russia. This is all about Russian aggression. And only thing Russia is doing is showing why NATO exists in the first place. Because this invasion of Ukraine for Sweden, was it Sweden and Finland, to join NATO. They've always been opposed to, no, we're not going to join NATO. We're just going to be these neutral parties and we're going to work with Russia. When they saw them invade Ukraine this time, it's like, okay, we can't live next to this guy. And so now NATO has gotten bigger because of his actions. NATO didn't get smaller; it got bigger. We added two more countries to NATO, and NATO was already at his doorstep. It's just an issue of Ukraine because he has an ideological position about Ukraine, the way China does about Taiwan. They believe that Taiwan is not an independent state. It is rightfully theirs. And at some point in time, they want to take it. It's the same thing with Ukraine. Putin does not see Ukraine as an independent sovereign nation. He believes historically it has always been a part of Russia. It still is. And he doesn't care anything about their sovereign independence that they gained in 1990. He doesn't care anything about that. In his mind, that's Russian territory. And so that's his issue. And so once you understand that, it has nothing to do with NATO being a threat to Russia. This is all about Putin's aggression. And it's the thing, too. How can you blame Ukraine for wanting NATO protection? Already invaded them in 2014 and took part of their country. So now Ukraine wanting NATO protection is Ukraine's fault that Russia came in and slapped them around. Like, it's like blaming a woman who's been abused by an abusive husband and saying, well, I mean, the dinner was kind of cold. You probably shouldn't have provoked him. That's what we're saying, and it just makes no sense. And it's all about this new wokeism from the right, that everything is about the CIA. Everything is about the military industrial complex. And that is what controls the actions of the world. And somebody like Putin isn't responsible for his own actions. He's just simply responding to the oppressive Western system that he's facing. And so Putin is actually an ally of ours against this liberal world order that we've been trying to fight. And so that's the spin that the Tucker Carlsons and the Candace Owens have put on this. And they're just completely ignorant to anything that had to do with actual geopolitics or anything about Russia or Russian culture or Russian history or Putin and how Putin views this. This has absolutely nothing to do with the CIA, has absolutely nothing to do with the military industrial complex. This is about Russia and Putin's aggression and how he views the world and his sphere of influence. That's it. And so, no, unequivocally, no, NATO is not to blame. Ukraine is not to blame. Russia is to blame. Even if you could try to say, I'm just putting myself in their shoes. I'm trying to see how they stop it. Stop it. You're not Russian. You don't know how the Russians think.
Boom.
And if you want to know how the Russians think, go look up Konstantin Kisin on Twitter from Trigonometry. He's Russian. He has family in Ukraine and in Russia. He knows it very well. He will tell you, the West, stop being stupid. You do not understand Russia.
That's right.
So.
That's exactly what he said. We clearly, we try to put everybody in our context, in our frame of thinking.
Yes.
You are highly, highly blessed to have come up in the context in which you have.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's perfect. I'm saying that at least the context is there for that framework is there for you to even think that way. I have friends who are Russian. Their families are from Russia as well. And when they talk about the way that people can tend to think over there about things, the reasons that they left Russia, that their families left Russia, it is not at all the way that it's now being painted by the Candace Owens of the world, et cetera. One of the things that I was talking to a friend of mine. We grew up together. Spent the night at his house all the time. You know, family's from Russia. His mom has a heavy Russian accent still, you know, broken English.
Yeah.
And the topic of abortion came up, and you know, I had become a conservative since, you know, she had seen me. You know, I feel like I grew up in her house for many years. Like, I was always over at their house, and the topic of abortion came up, and she was talking about it, and I could tell that there was a real pain when she said the words that followed. She said, "I'm okay with abortion because there are things that are worse than death." And I said, that is a very Russian perspective on that. She's
absolutely
seen some things.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, and just the way people don't understand, like, the way we care about our military, the way we bring the coffins back draped in the flag and everybody mourns and is sad. Russia doesn't do that. No, they're just pawns. Like, think of old Soviet Union communist mindset, right? You're just the ant. You're a worker and you're replaceable, right? They will lose a battalion if it gives them some type of military advantage. Like, they don't care. Yeah. Like, they will send a platoon out there to get shot at so they can see where the shooting's coming from. Like they don't care if they'll down. They don't, you know. That's just the human life, they don't value the same. Right. And so just understanding their mindset, their culture, it's just so different from ours. Trying to do these analogies where we're putting ourselves in their shoes and we're just trying to come in from a Western lens, it doesn't work. It was the reason I got my degree in Middle Eastern studies. You know, I'm working in that part of the world. I'm dealing with people and I'm trying to understand their behavior. I need to understand it from their context, not mine, because I can see something and be like, oh, I know what that is because I have a Western perspective. But it's like, no, I need to understand their culture. I need to understand why they're doing that. Instead of making my analysis based on my Western mindset. And that is what a lot of people fail to do, is take off your Western mindset, learn their culture and their mindset, and now interpret their actions through their lens, you know? And that's what a lot of people just fail to do. And I think that's what we're seeing, you know, the Candace Owens and the people who are trying to say, hey, this is NATO's fault. But look, we got our own issues. Nobody's saying the CIA or the military industrial complex or NATO don't have their own issues or whatever, but nobody, Vladimir Putin, invade Ukraine. This is something he did on his own accord for his own reasons. And it wasn't because of the military industrial complex. I'll put it like that.
That is so well said, man. I appreciate your perspective on that, because I, you know, have looked at some of these arguments that I've been surprised. I'm not surprised anymore that Candace or Tucker take these lines. I was surprised at first, but I'm thankful that they've made their positions known, because in my opinion, their credibility is shot. I don't have any respect left for Tucker Carlson anymore. I apologize if that offends you if you're a Tucker fan, folks in the audience, but I think that he has hurt his credibility massively, and I think that it's important for us to say things like this because there's a lot that gets thrown around, and in social media world, in the media itself, and all of that, and listen, for what our opinion is worth, mine is worth less than Kevin's. Kevin actually was in intelligence in the military, right? But, for somebody who's taking a seat back and just trying to call balls and strikes, NATO is not responsible for what Vladimir Putin did. Like Kevin said, it is a defense. It's a defensive organization, agreement between nations. They were not going to go in and attack Vladimir Putin. It's basically people living next to Debo wanting to make sure that if Debo comes to take their bike, that the homies are going to come. And
this whole show is off the rails. We've gone straight hood. We got
Straight
Friday
hood, sorry.
Debo references. Yeah,
We are-
Ukraine is just tired of every time Debo come around, they got to tuck their chain in. They
Tuck the
just
chain in.
tired of tuck the chain in. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if we can't put it in any simpler terms than this, that it is not the people tucking their chains in. It's not their fault.
Like, you know what,
Debo
man?
comes.
If you weren't wearing jewelry, Debo wouldn't rob you.
Right.
So it's just
It's the same thing. I hope everybody
same
listening
thing.
understands that argument that you're hearing out there is the exact same thing as what Kevin just said. It's the exact same thing. When they say that it's NATO's fault, it's the same thing as, oh, well, like Kevin said, she shouldn't have said that to him. That's why she got beat. It's like when I hate to say it, when a woman gets assaulted.
I was trying not to go there.
Yeah,
I was trying.
I don't want
to
to
go
get
there
shut down by YouTube, but they say they shouldn't. She shouldn't have worn that.
Yeah. And so, you're right.
It's the same argument.
When it comes to it, and I apologize, I don't mean to offend anybody. I know some of these terms can be offensive, but to quote Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder, never go full retard. And that's what Tucker did. That's what Tucker and Candace did.
That's what they did, man.
Yeah.
That's exactly. I don't know how to say it any better, man. You said that well.
Hey, man, Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder should have won an Oscar. I'm just saying.
They'll never give that man an Oscar. He deserved it. I got to find that. I got to find it now.
He at least should have won a NAACP Image Award as a black actor.
Man, you try to get. We're gonna have so many hate comments now. Oh my gosh, man. That's no, I got to play this now. Y'all got to see it now.
Yeah. Everybody knows you never go full retard.
What do you mean?
Check it out. Dustin Hoffman, Rain Man, look retarded, act retarded, not retarded. Count two picks, cheated cards. Autistic, sure, not retarded. Then got Tom Hanks, Forrest Gump. Slow, yes, retarded maybe, braces on his legs, but he charmed the pants off next to him and he won a ping pong competition. That ain't retarded. He was a goddamn war hero. Right. You know any retarded war heroes?
I had to, man. You never go full retard, man.
Never go full retard.
And I think that, listen, y'all, if you are drinking from that Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson Kool-Aid, man, stop. As
I think I know a better way to say it. That's not offensive. Never go full Alex Jones.
Oh man, thank you. Is Candace Owens not just black Alex Jones light at this point? I'm just saying.
Yes.
She's competing.
So I've said it. 2016 broke the left. The left lost their mind with the Trump election, went off the rails. 2020 broke the right with COVID, and all of a sudden the right kind of realized, oh man, they are lying to us, and what else they're lying to us about. And it broke the right's trust in all the institutions. It broke their trust in, I say some of the right, in everything that is out there. So they had this big distrust of everything. And it's okay. I mean, I went there. Just talk to me about the civil rights movement. But it's one of those things where have a healthy, not criticism, but like a healthy kind of, I guess you can call it criticism, right? Where you're trying to ask questions to make sure what you're dealing with is truth, not just taking what's being told. But you never go full Alex Jones.
Right.
You never go full conspiracy theorist where everything is a conspiracy theory. You can't believe anything, right? And now you're rebuilding your whole entire worldview because you don't know which way is up. Like, you lose your orientation. You have no idea what truth is. And so truth becomes anything you previously believed, you know? So if you got taught in school that Churchill was good and Hitler was bad, then you know what? No, Churchill was really bad and Hitler's good. And so that's how they're doing it. It's like, y'all are losing your minds. You never go full Alex Jones.
You can play Alex Jones, but not actually be Alex Jones. You never go full Alex Jones.
No, never go full Alex Jones.
I mean, I think that's well said. Y'all, I'm gonna tell you what it is. It's not that I had too much to drink. I'm gonna make a confession that I've never actually seen all of Tropic Thunder. I've never actually seen it.
You have not tried. It is not. It has no educational value. It has no moral lesson to teach you. It is pure, unadulterated guy humor. That's all it is. It has no value. And it's somebody out there, you hadn't seen it. I'm like, oh, they were talking about this on Informed Takes. Let me watch. No, don't.
Yeah,
it has no value. It will add nothing to your life.
Man. So we got to go, but I do have to tell a story.
Yeah.
I got to tell a story before we go here. It's not that I haven't tried to watch Tropic Thunder. So me, my sisters, my mom, my wife, we're hanging out. You know, kids gone to bed, all that stuff.
I know where this is going.
And I've never, we've never seen it. We've never seen it, and we've heard all these people talk about it. And me and my sisters are like, oh man, like, let's watch Tropic Thunder. We're at mom's house, like, mom's chilling with us and stuff. And so we're like, yeah, we need to see that, Joe. So we turn it on. None of us has ever seen it. We don't know what, we don't know.
This is so bad.
Dude, we start watching the movie, and I think we maybe got 15 minutes into the movie where
I'm surprised you made it that long.
Was so uncomfortable. We turned the movie off, and we were like, it's like the kind of thing that, like, me, my wife, and my sisters could watch. You cannot watch that movie with your moms in the room. You can't do it.
You can't. You can't.
You're all grown. Like, we're all pushing 40. You can't watch it with your moms in the room still.
Nope.
You still can't do it.
Nope. Yeah. Only reason I've watched it, because with a group of guys when it came out, because we heard about it, I went to the movies to see it. That's it. I hadn't seen it since. But even in the movie theater, I was like, this is bad. Like, the only good thing about that movie is Robert Downey Jr. playing a black guy.
It's incredible. It's so good. You know what's hilarious about this, right? You know what's hilarious about this? I did not know until I probably did. I can't remember when that movie first came out. 08. Okay. So the movie came out in 08. I didn't know until maybe like 3 or 4 years ago that was Robert Downey Jr. I didn't know.
What?
I didn't know that. I didn't know. Maybe it was a little longer, but like, it was a long time after the movie came out. And somebody said, dude, Robert Downey Jr. did an amazing job. I'm like, what you talking about? Robert Downey Jr. wasn't in that movie. He's like, he was the black dude. I'm like, no. And I went and looked it up, and I was like, that's the best performance he's ever had.
He should have gotten an Academy Award.
He should have gotten an Academy Award.
Yeah.
And
what do you mean?
He knows it.
Yeah. What do you mean, you people? What do you mean, you people? He was in full blown character. He was a black man. You couldn't tell him anything.
He pulled it off too. He pulled it off.
He did.
I was a saucier in San Antone. He pulled it off.
He did.
So I apologize for subjecting y'all to that. I may have to go in after this live, after it processes, and remove that section of the show. Y'all got to see it live. I didn't know. I forgot how much they cuss in that movie.
That's why I say I'm surprised you made it 15 minutes in. The start of that movie starts out, you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely wound up turning that one off because we didn't know what we were getting in for. None of us in the room, none of us knew what we were in for.
Yeah. All right. So, do you want to last two, or what do you
so
want to do?
let's see. We had
the right side of history. We can't do this. Yeah. But if you want to do the other one to go out on, we can.
No, we need to, man. We need to.
All right. Let's do that.
Hold on one sec. Let me bring that up because y'all need to see this. I'm gonna make y'all watch this because I made myself sit through it. Okay, y'all gonna watch this.
It's riveting.
A hot dog is not a sandwich.
Huh.
And people have been trying to convince me.
Is it just a hot dog?
It is a hot dog.
It's its own category?
It's its own category.
Is a hamburger a sandwich?
A hamburger can be a sandwich. Yes.
Well, why can't what makes it? It's the shape of the hot dog?
You have two pieces of bread and some kind of thing in the middle.
That's a hot dog.
A hot dog only has one piece of bread.
If the bun splits,
then it's no longer a hot dog.
That doesn't make it not a hot dog because
the bun.
How often does the bun split?
Rarely.
And in the packet of hot dogs, they're designed to split.
No, they're designed to split on one side. They're not designed to split.
I totally disagree.
If a bun splits apart, tell me this: if a bun splits apart, you pull it out. You get another bun, or do you use that bun?
Well, in our household, you don't throw out the bunned end. I don't know what. Now, maybe nowadays, little Mr. Fancy Pants. But in our household, Marion Fraser Robinson, you kept the broken bun and you had a hot dog sandwich.
Now you're going to prove my point because if the hot dog bun broke, we would use a slice of white bread, one slice. Because it is not a sandwich.
Dude, you stretching. But, it's your opinion.
It's my opinion.
So here's one.
Okay.
In my opinion, beets. I can't. BEETS.
We know what you're talking about.
Are a deeply divisive root vegetable and should be placed on menus with
I got to stop this for a second. Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't know if I can make it through the whole thing here. I've lost brain cells.
All right.
You know what I'm saying? Okay. So, it's not that you can't do this on a podcast, okay? It's not that you can't do it, okay? But I don't. That was boring. They were talking about something that should be funny. It should be funny.
Yes.
It was boring as all get out. And I'm going to save y'all. The rest of it is exactly the way it started. The Beats conversation is exactly the same as the rest. I'm going to save y'all the rest of that. I'm going
to be honest. So I posted this clip. I never watched the Beats conversation. I just saw the hot dog and I was like, okay, I'm sharing this because this is horrible. So for y'all that don't know, Michelle Obama has started a new podcast with her brother. He's a former Division I basketball coach. He was the head basketball coach at Oregon State. And they started this podcast. And you would think that this mama, like, she's got contacts. She could do an amazing podcast with the type of people she could have on, right? the dignitaries, the heads of state, the people, former congressmen, former presidents, right? She could have a just ridiculous podcast that's so insightful and engaging. And instead, she chose to do this with her brother to talk about how grew up and is a hot dog or sandwich. Why? Like, nobody cares. And so for somebody of her stature, on her YouTube, she's only got 30,000 subscribers. This is Michelle Obama. Right? That clip has 30,000 views. It should, for her level of who she, of status, she should be killing it. And she came out with the driest, most boring, uninteresting podcast out there. And look, we're not the greatest. No, we're not Joe
She
Rogan.
got more views than we do, but
I know, but yeah, I mean, let's be honest, it ain't all. But oh my goodness, that's so bad.
It's rough, man. It's rough.
I have sat around with people and been like, man, if we did a podcast, that'd be hilarious. Because like you just got that connection. It's funny. It's easy engagement. What conversation she had with her brother? She's like, let's do this podcast.
Yes.
It'd be awesome. Because they both look so uncomfortable. They just...
Thank you. It's uncomfortable. So, okay. So folks who know, like, a big part of, my business is helping people to create podcasts. And one of the things that's tough is that not everybody's good at it. Okay. Not everybody's good at it. Now, I'm not trying to say I am. I'm just saying that, I'm willing to keep doing it until I don't suck anymore. That's been my policy for the last 6 years. I'm willing to keep doing it until I don't suck anymore. So maybe that's what she's following. But maybe she really wanted to do a podcast. But you're right, Kev. The connections she has, all of the apparatus that she could employ, the resources just monetarily that she has to make sure that whatever podcast she puts out is fire, was not employed.
No,
or she doesn't have people around her that will be honest with
it's
her.
almost
And
like
that's probably
it's almost
the problem.
like her and her brother was like, let's do this with no outside opinion or help. Like they don't have a producer. They just like, yeah, listen, we can talk about how we grew up in a 1-bedroom house and it'd be great. Right? I don't know how that conversation went, but it was bad.
No, I can tell you because I'm looking. They got help because I'm looking at the gear that they have. I'm looking at the
the setup is awesome.
Oh yeah. The gear they got. You don't see a soundboard in sight, so they have help, and that's part of the problem because they have help, and those people weren't honest with them when they recorded that episode. They should have been like, Michelle, this will never see the light of day. I am so sorry. This podcast will never see the light of day, and I'm doing it because I love you. Nobody can ever see this.
So let's be real. It's not like this. They weren't live streaming. They recorded that, edited, and put it out there like it was good.
Obama, Barack was either not in the room, nowhere to be seen, or he was in the room kind of like, well, it's my wife. I guess I got to shut up. He's like, I got to shut up.
If you listen to the rumors, he wasn't in the room.
Word, I ain't going. I don't know. There's a little man. Megyn Kelly, she won't leave that alone, man. Megyn Kelly, she over here like, talking about who's the new chick and all that already. I'm just like, dude, like, calm down, man.
I'm not gonna throw it out there. No, it's just a rumor, but it seems to be some smoke to it.
It seems to be some, admittedly, but whatever it was, he either wasn't there, he didn't say anything. There's a lot of people. There are a lot of people who worked on this who didn't say anything.
They got a crew.
And I'm sorry that if you put out a podcast like that and all your friends told you it was good, they're not your friends. They don't love you.
No, they
don't love you.
They don't. To tie it back to politics before we get out of here, seeing her on this podcast, it takes away that idea that she could run for president because she has a presence. She has no presence. She is not Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what that
it
was
just
one
took
of the instant things that it said to me.
It took away that whole kind of thought process of Michelle Obama could come and save the Democrat Party and run for president. No, that was dry as toast.
Yeah. Sam and I were having a conversation. Sam's still studio audience over here. Sam and I were having that conversation earlier today. Yeah, I mean, it completely removed any kind of belief that she ever could have had a shot to even. I mean, her campaign, she would have got destroyed on the campaign trail. She would have got killed. I mean, it took away all the smoke and mirrors that she could have made it. I didn't know. I had no idea because I thought she would have been formidable. I thought she would have been formidable.
She's an older woman, so I'm not. But even to the point of what was she wearing?
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Like
facts.
You have an image to. You are a multi-millionaire. You could be dressed to the. You're on camera.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to be dressed like Megyn Kelly every day. But
right.
You're not just doing a vocal podcast. You're on camera. You're doing YouTube. Like, you can't. Oh man, yeah.
Right.
So
I mean, like now, I can understand. I can understand. Maybe she wanted to creatively do something, and she wanted to do it with her brother, and this is just a project she wanted to do. But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if she had decided to do a podcast with Barack, it would have took off. Yeah. Well, I mean, at least I think now. Now I'm not so sure.
You're trying to fuel those rumors because I'm like, why didn't she have to do a podcast with Barack?
I don't know.
Oh man! All right, man. It's been 2.5 hours, so we got to wrap this up. So we talked about a lot today or tonight. What are your final thoughts?
Okay, so the thing I want everybody to come away with is, if you're starting a podcast, make sure you have honest people around you. No, I'm just kidding. But I think that there's something that was said tonight that was very important to me. My final thoughts, listen, there are a lot of voices on the right presently. There are a lot of voices on the right who are taking certain positions on things that you need to be very careful about listening to those people. And we've named them already. You need to be very careful about listening to those people because they're feeding into something that is not true. And one thing that I don't want to see happen on the right is this attitude of identitarianism, this attitude of isolationism, this this attitude of strength over morality. That is not who we're supposed to be. And I'm sorry to say that those voices are starting to become voices that are in favor of those things and not in favor of what we're supposed to stand for. And I have to advise to mark and avoid at this point.
Yeah. No, good words, man. Good words. Man, my final thoughts. In terms of, I tell people all the time, it's one thing to see something out there, like on Twitter, like something goes on Twitter. I'll give a prime example. We heard last week that Christians were being targeted and slaughtered in Syria. It was all over X. Like every account was like, this, we got to something, this is unimaginable. And I don't know, when I see something that's being repeated like that, there's no evidence to it, I'm automatically like, okay, red flag. Too many people are saying the exact same thing. And this is what I want people to understand. There are always people out there trying to shape the narrative. They're trying to sway it in a way that to get you or public policy or public opinion behind a certain thing. And you have to be very careful you don't let those people sway you. So when you see something out there, try to verify it as best you can. Even if it means sources that you don't trust, or you don't normally trust. So like the AP. If I see something on Twitter, I'm going to go to the AP. I'm going to go to Reuters. I'll go to Fox. I go to CNN. I want to see, can I find this somewhere else? Is this actually being reported? And if it is being reported, what are the facts that are being reported about it? Right. And once I did that, I realized that it wasn't Christians being targeted. Did Christians get killed? Yes. But it was more so Christians caught in a crossfire between the new regime's military and the Alawite community, which is the sect of the previous administration, right? So you've got this fighting going on, and they're going in just clearing out, excuse me, entire neighborhoods, right? They're not showing any discretion, and that's horrible. But that's not the same thing as going door to door, looking for Christians and executing Christians and committing a Christian genocide, because that word was thrown out there too, right? Genocide. Because it's the same thing with the Israeli thing. They're trying to use words like genocide to get your emotions going, to move you in a certain way, right? Whether that is to stop Israeli action in Gaza, or whether it's to encourage Western intervention in Syria, right? And so it's just one of those things of don't get caught up in like the rhetoric that's out there. Verify it, see what the facts are, and then just sit with the facts and don't get caught up and understand that people are trying to steer you in directions. And so if you can avoid that and just be level head, and don't make don't take a position right away. Just kind of be slow to make your mind up and see what's going on. You'll be a whole lot better off than the person that is easily manipulated. Their emotions are always back and forth. They're getting, as scripture say, tossed to and fro by every wind of, doctrine or philosophy, because they're not grounded in anything. So you want to be grounded in the truth. The best thing to do is try to figure out what that truth is, and then just be grounded in it. But don't let your emotions be swayed by people that are trying to play on your emotions. So that's
very good. Very good thoughts, man. Very good thoughts.
All right, man. It is time to sign off, man. We've really appreciated you guys. It was good to be back. My bad.
I had to have.
I mean, I love
have
that
one.
Wrong. No, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for the support. One way you can support us is to support the like, subscribe, share on social media. Also, check out the merch store. We still got the unburdened shirts. We got to get some more stuff on there.
We do.
But support us again. Hopefully next Sunday as we tackle the latest in foreign policy and domestic policy. But until then, stay informed.
Stay informed, folks. Have a good one. This podcast was filmed at Podium Studios at Marietta Square. Grow your business with turnkey, professional quality podcasting, live streaming, and online events. Don't worry about editing. Don't worry about anything. Just come in and record. Learn more at thepodium.studio. Step up to the podium.